Hello and welcome to another Breyer customization video. Today I will be repainting this Breyer Fireheart, well technically his cousin Mojave. Sculpted by Raven Maddock, this guy has been a fan favorite ever since his debut, and it's easy to see why. I love his dramatic mane and tail, and since he's a Mustang, his color possibilities are endless. So just like I did with my Criollo video, the first thing I did was soda blast the edges of these white markings away, so they won't cause lines underneath the paint. You can also just sand them down with fine grit sandpaper. I also made sure to sand any seams, especially in the mane and tail, as well as the logo. I also filled in the air hole with epoxy, making sure to drill a new one between the back legs. And with all that and a bath, he's ready for primer. And once that was fully dry, I can add my white base coat with the airbrush. I was really indecisive about what color I wanted, since he really could be anything, but I ended up choosing a Bay Pinto. Once I have my nice bright base, I can start adding the lightest color. Okay, so remember how I was like, trust the process on my wine horse? Well, absolutely do not trust the process here, because what on earth was I thinking?
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
If I was doing another super dark bay, I might have been able to hide this, but this Ronald McDonald disaster has to go. But luckily this is airbrush paint, so it's very thin and even, so I can just add another layer of white over top and pretend it never happened. So this time around I'm starting with a much more muted reddish shade. It's still fairly light for the highlights, but not burn your retinas bright. So definitely don't be afraid or quit if something isn't working out at all. While I'm adding the lightest color, I leave some of the areas alone since they will be darker anyway. Now I can start the shading with a darker brown. I make sure to follow the muscle sculpture as well as look at pictures of real bay horses. If you don't have an airbrush, you can still absolutely do this with pastels. It will just take a little bit longer and need more layers to build up the color. With that dry, I can go a shade darker and add smaller details. For the mane and tail, I add a gray base so I can shade it with the black. I'm still undecided if I like this technique or not. I think it adds some dimension, but maybe I should use dark brown in the future. It just doesn't feel quite right with the coat. Now I can add the black and really make all this come together. Once that had dried for at least a day, I seal it with a matte spray so I can handle it. I was pretty happy with how this came out, and I debated leaving him as a plain bay, but I really love a crazy coat. So I compromised with myself and decided to do a minimal Tobiano. First I outline the markings with my white colored pencil. I'm making sure to look at real horses as reference. I wanted to do a design that was just a little bit skull-like, but not too obvious. Now I can fill it in with my watered down acrylic. The first coat is always so satisfying, but by the third it really loses its charm. Okay, so I couldn't help myself, he was just begging for some roning. I found some really cool examples of Mustangs with reverse dapples, which I think occurs when regular roans dapple, but since the hair is light, the dapples look dark, unlike normal coats where they are lighter. But I'm no expert, and it's not a very well studied expression, but I do think it would look really nice on him. Using the same colored pencil, I start outlining around the dapples. Even though I try and hair pretty lightly and build up color, the texture of the horse and the pencil inevitably make a recognizable pencil line. I make sure to smooth out those harsh marks with a blending stump. I try to pay attention to the size and spacing of the dapples. I use the same pencil to draw in the white hairs where the split color in the mane is. I also bring the hairs out onto the top of the tail. Once I did all those layers of white, I sealed everything again with a matte spray. Now the pastel will stick great to this white paint. Using my eyeshadow brush, I blush his nose. And I didn't notice until just now editing this that I totally forgot to blush around his eye where it's white. So definitely don't be like me and forget that part. I take my kneaded eraser and remove anything that got on the black parts. To blend on any long hair where there's a pattern, I use the paintbrush with a top cut off and apply black pastel. This helps the edge blend together and not be super sharp and unnatural. I do this with the mane and tail edges as well. Our Mustang is probably out roaming the untamed land of the West and not getting shampooed, So let's dirty up these whites. I sealed all that and then added even more blending. Let's see what we can do with these hooves. I start with a tan base. Then I add a white stripe to the top and blend it down before it dries, which is sometimes easier said than done depending on the humidity. Next I dry brush striping with brown shades. This definitely takes practice, but luckily you can just add light and dark tones back and forth as you need, and it ends up having more dimension the more you add anyway. For the bottom of the hoof, make sure to look up pictures of real ones. Typically they have this dark ring and a lighter middle. Again, the more layers the better with this. I also add little cracks to the inside as well as some on the outside of the hoof. Even though you don't really see it with his factory paint, one thing I love about this model is you can actually see his teeth. So I give him a nice yellow grin, starting with a tan base. Then with brown, I add shading where the teeth would touch. You can see though why it was especially important to cover that mouth air hole on this guy. Looking back, I think I might have given him too many teeth, so definitely look at those references. Jumping back for a second, I did start the eyes first by filling in the black. I left more white than usual for a really wild look. Like maybe he's spotted a rival stallion, or a mountain lion in the brush. Okay, maybe I've watched Spirit too many times. I also added tiny pink veining in the inner corners. I will be giving him a blue eye and a brown eye, which is funny because my last horse was my first time doing that, and now I've done two. For the brown I add a dark oval inside of the black. Then I can blend in lighter tan shades and add striation. I do the same with the blue eye on the other side. I finish them off with tiny eyeshine dots. Once that was all fully dry, I can gloss them, the nostrils, the teeth, and the hooves with varnish. The last thing to do is add the chestnuts and to sign him. I seal everything with a satin finish, and now let's see the final result. Despite the setbacks and a few silly mistakes, I still think he turned out really nice. I'm glad I didn't just keep him as a bay, and I really had fun trying out a new coat pattern. I think he would feel right at home on the open plains, protecting his herd. Maybe once Raven Maddox Mustang Mare and full models or regular runs, I can make him a family. So let me know if you'd want to see that, and what colors you think they should be. Don't forget to follow my Instagram for more fun things I don't make videos of. And as always, thank you for watching. Make sure to boop that like button and subscribe for more projects.